Let the dragon consume you! Enemy sighted. Stop the payload! Stop the payload! In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Birdwatcher's back at it one more time. Here's your host, Brian and Clay. They're about to bring you some sweet Overwatch action.
All right, Ryan, how you doing this week?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm always doing good when there's good Overwatch on.
Yeah, there was a ton of good stuff too.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about it. The league's getting better. It's getting a lot.
It is getting better. Definitely getting a lot more consistency in the games too. We're not seeing a lot of 4-0 blowouts. I mean, there are some each week, but not a ton. We're getting some consistency there.
Yeah, these ones are getting close.
Yeah, they feel close, especially if you look at the stats, man. The numbers are there. Even if they're, a 3-1 or a 4-0, the fights are pretty consistent, and the kill-to-death ratio is pretty consistent as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to hop straight into it, and you guys know our format. We do our honorable mentions first because we can't watch every game. We try.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get into the big one we chose for the week. This week was, we chose the right one. So for our honorable mentions, we had the Boston Uprising versus Dallas Fuel. Boston took that one 4-0, taking Volskaya, Lijiang, Kings Row, and Gibraltar. Were there any stats from that you wanted to mention, or was it?
Yeah, the only stats that I wanted to bring up, and obviously as a 4-0, this one didn't feel close. I watched a little bit of it. Dallas only won 17 team fights over the course of 4 maps. Wait. Not a lot of fights won there. So,
how many fights? How many fights do you think are per map?
I would say closer to 50, 60 maps or fights. So
per match, okay.
Yeah. So
that's not a good record then.
Yeah, winning maybe only a fourth of the matches or the fights here in this match. So
Striker, it looks like Striker showed up here. Which is
Striker
usually the cases when
did.
Boston wins, right?
Yeah, getting 60 or 30 limbs and only dying 16 times, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's really solid.
Yeah, especially versus counterpart Effect there, who only got 30 kills and died 23 times. So
yeah, those are usually the numbers you see from like SBB and Birdering on average. But Striker here,
that's a walk in the park for old SBB. Like, 60, easy. Let's do this.
Yeah. Super easy. But yeah, so Boston takes that one. Dallas Fuel having a lot of trouble. We'll get into that later down the road because it's kind of more off the field stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Our second honorable mention is the Philadelphia Fusion versus Shanghai Dragons. At some point, the Lord will step in.
Yeah.
And give them some
these boys a victory. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. 4-0 to Philly, taking Volskaya, Lijiang, Hollywood, and 66. And Philadelphia's been looking better.
They have been. It's kind of hard to test it on this versus the Shanghai Dragons, but they have been looking better over the last couple of weeks, especially in Stage 2.
Yeah, Shanghai Dragons is starting to look like a bye week at this point.
Yeah. Everybody wants them on the schedule, right? Like, whew.
Yeah.
Don't have to practice this week. Maybe we can go out and have a couple of drinks.
Exactly.
Don't have to practice. Oh, we didn't mention. This is week 4.
Ah, yes.
Stage 2, episode 5. Yeah. Episode 5, Stage 2, week 4. Cool. You want to let's get down to the big one.
Yeah, let's get. I mean, this is the way we love to kick off the week strong, right? New York Excelsior versus Seoul Dynasty.
Yeah. Did you have any? Do you have any predictions going into this one?
So no. I figured it could go either way.
Yeah, especially with Seoul looking definitely better in Stage 2 than they had in Stage 1 for sure.
Yeah, I know record-wise and statistically, Seoul has trouble with New York, despite how good Seoul is.
Yeah,
that team, like outside of, the London Spitfire, which can go either way, they just can't deal with New York. There's something, I don't know, psychological. They kind of all know each other as well. But this one's always good to watch for me because it's, Joe Knack on one side, Ryu Jae-hong on the other.
Yeah, it's like Sensei and the student.
Yeah.
And I think the student has surpassed the sensei.
And the crazy part is because like Bodosin is another kind of student as well, right? And the commentators were mentioning it, and they were kind of talking about him like old man Ryu Jaehong. And I'm like, he's 26.
Yeah.
He's 26.
So old, man. Just so much experience. He's wise.
I know. Yeah. He's been around. He has two world wins under his belt.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get straight into it. Hanamura, this is where Excelsior kind of shine. Liberal, man. So when it comes to, the duos you have, and Birdring and Prophet usually stick out.
Absolutely.
But Liberal and SBB are one of these guys. Like I feel those are my two high ones, right? So you have Birdring, Prophet, and you have Liberal and SBB. And we have cases with other teams where, one player will do good, one will do good, but they never kind of balance out. And this is where it's insane because SBB is just great at killing supports, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, no joke.
And Liberal is great at killing DPS. So the only thing left you have is tanks.
Yeah, just spreading the love across the whole field. Yeah,
just spreading the love. On Hanamura, there was one play that was just bang out where on defense, Liberal gets hit with a what is it? The Ana.
Oh, the nano
boost. Yeah. Nano boost, and everybody. It's at a time when the dragons are right in that hallway. So he does a dash, pretty much kills two people, gets his reset, kills Zenyatta, he kills pretty much the whole team, gets a 5K, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was insane.
Yeah, and it was at a point where Seoul Dynasty really needed to put that pressure back on, but New York Excelsior is known for their defensive play, right? Like they're the strong defensive team.
Oh yeah.
To see them, especially this whole week, you kind of see this trend kind of carry out. And I don't know if you noticed, but they were playing more aggressive and trying to mimic what.
Yeah, especially in that situation, especially because you wouldn't normally see these guys. You'd let them push in a little bit, then you go Nano Blade, but they took it on the offensive, and I think that took Seoul off guard. And I think New York has kind of perfected playing and practicing to their weekly opponent now, because Seoul probably practiced for a more defensive New York. So caught them off guard there in the hallway a little bit.
Yeah, and I've said something in a previous episode. This might happen, from time to time. I'm going to, retract certain statements. I talked about Art kind of being the weak point of that team because he played mostly with Mercy in the first stage. So seeing him on Ana first caught me off guard. And then seeing him play Ana very well.
Especially
alongside Jonak was just impressive. He had a sleep from, I want to say, damn near full range on Fleta right when he pops. So this is the last attempt. Right when Fleta pops his visor.
Those feel good, man.
Slept him and then just watched the visor tick down. And then they did a replay. And then they just kind of rolled him at that point. And that's the thing with, like we said, New York Excel being that defensive team, you can't even slip up once when you're attacking. You're their aggressor.
They'll take advantage of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they'll take advantage. They'll clean that up, and then you've burned your alt economy's now off, and they capitalize on that, and they keep that in mind. They wrap up that first map, which was a real exciting start. Crowds going wild, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then we move to our next map, which is Nepal, which is Control, and New York having that high control record. I think they're 17-4 at this point, which is the best in the league.
Yeah, that's insane, dude. That win percentage is actually insane. That's really
that's actual craziness.
Yeah.
And we always talked about, it shows here, right, where because they're so good at the control map, that means if it goes to overtime, they're in favor, right? And that's something that comes along here. But the Dynasty aren't able to pull this one out because Munchkin just plays out of his mind. It's almost, we'll talk about Jake kind of on Junkrat, or not Junkrat, on Tracer this week.
Yeah.
And the issues that my team is having with the Tracer situation. But when if you put like Munchkin playing Tracer, which is his main character, then put him next to like Jake, it looks completely different.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's picking up kills on supports where Jake is playing a more defensive Tracer, and I don't think you can do that at this level. You have to be aggressive and you have to be getting those picks, especially in these fights, which is kind of crazy because map 1 we see a quad tank strat out of Seoul, And it really didn't pan out for them, right? They lost map 1, and they make some quick changes into something more traditional for them. And I think it does help them win this map.
Yeah. He sticks to targets and he moves around. He's just constantly building up that ult and always being proactive. And that's something that you see Jake can't do or has trouble doing. Not that he can. I mean, they're all pros, right? Disclaimer as usual. So yeah, Dynasty takes. Okay, so we have NYXL. That's their best map. Dynasty take it. Okay, that's a good sign for Dynasty, right? Moving to the next map. So NYXL also has the record for hybrid maps, right? At a 14-2-1 record.
Insane.
It's like they don't know how to lose.
Yeah. And the only time I remember this team not being consistent is when we saw Junkertown, and they were just like, you know what, we're gonna let you get this first map because we were playing Junkertown map 1.
Yeah.
And they were like, you know what, we're not practicing this Bastion bullshit. We're gonna give you guys this. And then we're going to take the rest because there's no point trying this. But
that's one case with New York too, is that they try to stick to their guns. They don't really play it doesn't feel like they play the meta, or they play close to it, but they still try to play what they're good at. Because we see that even with Sombra, right? They refuse to play Sombra.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that they aren't trying to force something. And I think a lot of teams, get caught up in that kind of thing, and they aren't able to pull it out. So.
Yeah. So we move into Hollywood where, Dynasty shows up again, and this is on the back of Munchkin. So we're seeing kind of a thing here, a repeating factor. Another one being how important Ryu Jae-hong is, which we'll see towards the end of the week, how that kind of works against them.
Yeah.
Because they can't protect him as well as they need to. But yeah, your two key points now in my mind are Munchkin and Ryu Jae-hong. And I feel like if those two can perform at their level, then if you have the other factors around, they're gonna be in the running. And even here, where they're kind of they're doing all right, they're sticking with NYXL, right? So you're saying number 1 team, right? Are they number 1 or number 2? They're number 1.
They're
right?
number 1. Yep, New York number 1.
Yeah, but in Hollywood, they come out with triple tank on attack, which is pretty interesting to kind of counter the Pharah Widow combo that's kind of popular on that second point defense.
Yep.
Because Widow has those long sight lines, people like to pick her, and then you have so much airspace, so you have the Pharah as well. But here on triple tank, Munchkin's switches to Roadhog, so he's not even playing Tracer, right? And is still performing. Like, he's doing some plays, he's getting some 3Ks. They're just kind of out of this world as far as you would think there was no team on the other side of that, especially being NYXL, right?
You're right. And this is the map that NYXL just kind of struggled to even get any kind of foothold on offense at all. We saw SBB trying to play Pharah, and man, stage
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Stage 1, when we used to see a little bit of his fair play, pretty consistent. He's hitting rockets. Man, you're seeing these rockets go all over the place. And I think they struggled to really get any kind of picks. They do eventually take point 1, but struggle through the whole thing. I think they end up switching to a Hanzo Widow at some point.
Yeah.
Trying to push the cart, and it really they'd never really get anything going.
Yeah, that's the snipe comp they kind of make popular. Which you see another team use later in the week.
Yeah, highly effective when you're getting picks, but if you're not, man.
It's weird on Hollywood. I mean, I get it when you pick it on Kings Row. That's
a lot more tight. There's definitely tighter corridors. There's easier shots for Hanzo, but this one's too open. And getting up on top, man, you just get dove so quickly, right? I mean, you climb up there, Diva's on you in a heartbeat.
But yeah, so I mean, Dynasty take that one mainly because of the slip up in composition choice after New York has a strong push, and they can't follow up on that. So Dynasty take it, and then we move into Gibraltar, where we get the flip back to New York kind of doing their thing, and here's kind of a show out of the supports. Right at this point, they mentioned a stat which was ridiculous to me because as well as New York Excelsior is playing, even though they lost those last two maps. Jonak is the top damage on their team. He's doing 23%.
Yeah, I remember they mentioned that. I was like, whenever I play Zenyatta, I am never the top damage. I don't even think I have silver half the time, and I play at a pretty high level sometimes. I'm like,
exactly.
Holy moly, dude, this guy's insane.
Yeah, it's absurd, and that being said, I wonder if a lot of that was because Jae-hong is there. Like your sensei's on the other side, you're gonna show out, right?
Yeah. Play to your play upwards, right? You know, if if you're playing a better team or you're playing a team that's just as good, you want to play at that level. And he definitely showed out for sure.
And counter to that point, although Jonak was having, doing the most damage, Ryu Jae-hong, I think at this point was close to top kills. He was finishing people off very clean.
Yeah.
Not many volleys, just kind of just headshotting people. That last 20%, which counts just as much, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, speaking of volleys, Jonak actually does, I think he right-clicks Libero twice during a blade. Like, one blade, Libero pops it off, and Jonak's just like, all right, I'm looking for him. Charges it up, cracks him one. And then you're like, dude, he can't do this again. Sure enough, I think we're at the second point. They're pushing. Jonak finds him again, charges it up, hits him again. It's like, dude, this guy can't miss.
He can't.
I'm hitting Rhine shields. This guy's hitting Genjis flying through the air. This guy's insane. So.
Yeah, and it's flat as Genji. It's not just anybody's Genji, right?
Yeah. No, Libero, yeah, on Genji.
Wait.
No, they're the same team.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not right-clicking his own Genji.
Yeah, he's not right-clicking that.
Yeah, flat out, you're right.
There's no team kills.
Yeah.
But anyways, the big part of this, though, that pulls him through is just Libero. Libero steps back up, kind of what we saw the first game, which carried him through, which was, they were saying that he was pretty much getting 2Ks per life, which, I mean, if you can kill 2 people before you die, he puts your team in a good position. If the rest of your team is a bunch of all-stars.
Oh, yeah, especially on characters he's playing, like Genji and Soldier. Yeah.
Yeah. And Libero's Genji was informed this week, which he did have some trouble on last week.
He's definitely getting the consistency between him and SPB, because SPB is always there. It's getting his second DPS out there and performing as well. And when they do, man, obviously best team in the league, they're doing something right. But when those two are on point, man, it's insane.
Yeah, and then we move into the final map, the overtime or over what do you want to call it?
I guess the 5th map or the tiebreaker.
Yeah, the tiebreaker. Yeah. Exactly, where we have Ilios, where Excelsior kind of take this one convincingly. It does go full 3 rounds, and that's mainly because, like we said, on the back of Munchkin, where if he's playing at that level he needs to play at, or going above and beyond, it's just really hard. It's a very oppressive type tracer play.
Oh, absolutely.
And there was one point where Munchkin got a 3K when they were at 86%, and still somehow New York was able to flip it, and that was when it turned around. Right? Yeah. Because that's the ones you got to lock out, especially when you only need 2 wins. Because control is now shorter, that you don't have those 5 attempts, or the full 5 attempts is just 3 now. So
man,
yeah,
it's so much.
Remember those days?
This way. Yeah, you sit there for 45 minutes and lose a match. You'd feel terrible
and just go to bed.
But you're right about Munchkin. We talk about top tracers all the time. We talk about SVB and Prophet. He's definitely up there. He is definitely one of the top 5, easily one of the best top 5 tracers in the league right now. So
yeah,
he definitely performed.
Yeah, and then the final round, they take it to round 3. So this one goes all the way. I know the fans thought it was hype. I enjoyed it a lot. I was standing up in my living room, kind of like hype, right? But yeah, on round 3, NYXL kind of switches it on them and plays that London style of very aggressive. So they take point and they push like up to the door, and they're fighting in front of the door. And that's something you just don't see from them at all.
Yeah, kind of taking them aback a little bit. So not sure what to do there, it looked like.
And this may be a case where, getting closer to the second stage playoffs, where they kind of want to show the range they have now, because that hurt them when they lost to London before, right?
They kind of stuck to one style of play, and London was able to capitalize on that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I mean, that wraps it up. Just a recap. New York takes it 3-2, and that's taking Hanamura, Hanamura, Ilios, Gibraltar, and then Dynasty got Nepal and Hollywood.
Yeah.
Were there any stats there that kind of stood out specifically as far as...
The biggest thing, and you mentioned earlier, he actually does play quite a bit of Mercy, and we are seeing a lot of Mercy, actually more than we thought. He gets 4.5 ults per 10 minutes, which is insane when you think about how much healing Mercy's able to put out when she is ulting.
Yeah.
Not the broken ability where she was unable to be killed, but when you're in team fights and you need a second transcendence, you hit the Valkyrie and you're healing up the whole team. And he was able to get it almost 5 times every per 10 minutes, which is insane.
Yeah, we said Striker usually being had a special week, but you see here SBB 61 and 29. All right, like that's close to what Striker got, but that's a great day for Striker, and this is just another walk in the park for SBB.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one kind of outstanding thing is, both these teams are, I think, the highest 1 and 2 for least amount of deaths, which matters. If you're not dead, you're playing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go into Thursday, March 15th. We had Shanghai. These are honorable mentions. We go into easy match for New York here. It's Shanghai versus New York. And New York does 4-0 them. I think we'll see some changes going forward for Shanghai, but they do take it 4-0, taking Hanamura, Nepal, Hollywood, and Route 66.
Yeah, that's just, I wouldn't even honor watching that match. That just feels like abusive, right?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe this is a point where New York does try some of their other their other players on their team, but I actually didn't. I didn't see any of this.
Yeah, I try to avoid watching any Shanghai games as possible.
I brought it up in the past. They pan over to the guys on the Shanghai Dragons. Dude, how are you guys not crying right now?
Exactly, they're robots.
It's like, geez, dude, I'd be in tears. But our next match was Florida versus Los Angeles, and I actually didn't pin this to be going to Florida, honestly. Mm-hmm. Did you?
No. Who would?
Yeah, right. We did see Florida, pretty dominant last week. I think they did lose a match last week, but I did not pair them to beat Los Angeles, especially 3-1. Valiant kind of on the downswing, especially this week. But Florida does 3-1 them, taking Hanamura, Nepal, Hollywood, and... Oh, no. Valiant took Hollywood, and Florida took Route 66 to win the series. Yeah. The only thing Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying, Florida looks different. They just look... And they really haven't changed much besides bringing in Moth, right?
And then I think maybe some coaching staff. But other than that, I don't know if they changed, just a lot of practice, and it looks like they're definitely more confident, and they're diving a lot better. They seem a lot more coordinated. But yeah, pretty dominant there against Los Angeles, which is kind of crazy. But our feature match of the week, Los Angeles Gladiators versus your boys from the Houston Outlaws.
Boo. The game was rigged, man.
Man, I'm so glad I jumped on the Gladiators bandwagon. And I will continue to stay on that bandwagon until they lose. I'm on to the next one.
Because that's the definition.
What did we end up coining this match?
Oh, the Battle of the Hair, man.
Yeah, and
the Battle of the Hair.
That Goose hair, that big Goose
I think
hair.
Goose wins. Goose
think
wins.
so?
This week he wins. It was a case where he has this kind of like, all right, you remember Dragon Ball Z, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so you talk about the definition of good hair. So you remember Trunks when he goes Super Saiyan?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much Big Goose's hair.
Yeah. It's so fluffy. Do you think he could get a hat on that hair?
No. No, you put the hat on and have the hair poking out under the bill, right?
Yeah, it might just shoot it off, and that's dangerous.
Yeah. And Goose is getting, it's not just the hair. He played out of his damn mind.
He definitely did. He most definitely did.
Talk about, looking like a South Korean player, looking like one of the. I didn't think his honor was that good originally, but here we got to see some of it. That was just really impressive.
Yeah, I'm glad these guys that are these flex supports aren't stuck to the Mercy like we saw in Stage 1, and we can actually see them get to play more Ana and Zen and actually see the talents come through. Because obviously there's some talent in Mercy. It's more position, but when you get to see these guys hit the big sleeps and the big volleys from Zen, it's awesome to see.
Yeah, so we had some kind of standout things happen in this match, and starting off, it looked pretty even, which was good to see. It did.
Yeah, the tank play from Houston looked pretty sharp, and Fisher being one of the biggest pickups for Gladiators looked good too. He did make a little bit of folly on, I think it was defense. He goes for a dive and kind of falls off in front of the entire Houston team and just gets just ransacked almost and jumped on. That was the only thing that stuck out to me as far as his mistakes are concerned. But
there was also a case where Rockets falls off the map as well on that first point.
So I'm watching that go down. I'm like, oh, okay. So Houston looks like they cleared the point. They're on defense. Looks like they're good. And then you're like, oh, I'm looking at, because I watched the kill feed the whole time, because that's really your biggest indication who's winning the fight. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on some of the time. And I'm like, oh, this guy, oh shit. What happened? And not until they go into a replay where they're like, oh, he just falls off the corner. And I think, the Gladiators noticed the same thing. They're like, oh shit, we need to get on the point, man. This guy messed up.
Exactly. And that those mistakes kind of allowed them to take it without issue, and that happens again, not in the same factor. But you've talked about Surefour, who another person on Gladiators who's playing out of his mind, is he had an EMP, so his Sombra's usually oppressive, right? That's usually how they get, especially on
this series, man, was rough for him. It just seemed like it was very rough for him. Because I think they later, because this is a best of 5 on this one. They do take it to 5. They pull him back in on Gibraltar. We'll get to it. And it looked rough again. That being said, Linkser does play at his mind on that map, but we'll get to that. But yeah, you're right. He dies with an EMP, and then that same EMP on defense, he uses after 2 of his guys are already dead. Instead of playing proactively, he's playing reactively, and it's too late, and it cost him. So
he doesn't get the EMP off, and it's hard because then they have the time bank as well, right?
Right.
That 3-minute time bank just kind of puts them over the edge. And then you have plays where like Bijou has 3K ult type situation.
Oh, dude, that was sick.
Yeah, that was really nice.
I think that was with an EMP too, because I think the tanks couldn't get away, so they did pair that really well. But I think that was later, a little bit later. But yeah, it was insane.
But Houston takes it, right? They take that one, and then we move on to Lijiang, where they do mention that Jake is now in. Jake usually plays like mostly Junkrat on this map, right?
Right.
And we're seeing his Junkrat usage kind of come down as they're trying to figure out their Tracer play. He sometimes goes a Soldier to try to work through some things. But this is where the Gladiators do their thing, right?
Right.
Sorry.
And I was going to ask you, do you think trying to force Jake into a role, and these are your guys, do you think forcing this guy into a role that he may be not as comfortable with is worth him getting off the Junkrat?
So I'm going to go a little higher above that. A little higher above that question directly is that I think this whole Tracer issue they're bringing up for this whole team concern, I think I feel like there's not one question that needs to be answered. I feel like there's another strategy, but with everyone focusing on they need a Tracer so they can do Tracer-based strategies, I'm like, why not look outside the box? Because we see things like, Gladiators have Asher, right?
Yep.
But Hydration is playing anything he wants.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that calling out that they need a Tracer is almost like a scapegoat.
Yeah.
It's an easy out to saying, oh, this is why they're underperforming. That's probably not it. I mean, obviously, Tracer is very powerful.
Yes.
Good thing to have.
Finishes kills.
Yeah, absolutely. But saying that that's the only downfall to the Houston, especially this week, is got to be it's got to be incorrect.
Yeah, and one thing that's mentioned, later in the week is they talk about DPS comps, and like the essentially bare theme of it is that you need one character that can either do burst damage or a large chunk of damage, and you need one character that's very effective at finishing those kills. That's ideal, and then you have the rest of the team as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they usually when they mention kills or fragging or whatever, they mention it with one of the tanks and one of the DPS in mind, because it's a combination to finish the kills. It's not usually just one person,
right?
And that's why I think they should focus first is, okay, we have this pool of people we can play. Which one can be the burst? Which one can be the finisher? And let's play around that, right? Because you still have Diva Winston tank options. So those can also play a role in that situation as well. And yeah, I feel like that's more where I'm focusing, because I wish the Tracer conversation, it's weird because they have a Tracer player they're not using, which brings up other questions.
Oh, I get.
And they're looking for another Tracer player. So it's like, what? Is it a coaching thing? Is it a
it almost seems like it would be a coaching thing. It's funny they say, man, we really like the Houston Outlaws. They're all very personable. They seem like a family. But where does Clockwork? Who is he in the family?
Exactly.
What part of the family is Clockwork in? He's that guy at Christmas that's opening somebody else's gifts. Like what shitty drunk uncle is that? Poor Clockwork. Because I think he plays. They're like, oh, we're bringing in Clockwork. He's the control specialist, or he's the assault specialist. The assault specialist, as they name him. It's like, but give him more than one map, per series.
Also has good hair. He has the pompadour.
He does. Got some nice hair. But yeah, so we're on
Yeah, so they take Li Zhang. This is where Hydration, like I said, plays Doomfist, gets the 3K immediately, and is just oppressive. And Houston has a real hard time flipping points against.
Yeah. And Hydration does some beautiful stuff by switching constantly between a couple different characters where Houston tries to adapt and he switches to something else. At one point he's on a Pharah, Links are switching over to a Widow. He's like, no, whatever, I'm getting on Genji. Then he switches over to Doomfist and you're like, man, what are we supposed to play against this guy? And it really shakes him up. Until I think map 2 on Li Zhang, they try a little something obscure and throw that map away, but they do end up taking it at map 3. So
yeah, and they moved to King's Row, which introduces another issue that Houston has been having. Listen, I don't know if I'm cursed or if I'm an omen or catalyst or whatever you want to call it, but
just pick another team. just pick another.
Do you think there'll be a reverse effect if I switch to Shanghai? Do you think they'll start winning?
I think you could give Shanghai just see. We haven't seen a draft, yet.
Yeah,
you could give that guy those guys the first 5 draft picks, and they still might not be able to win. But yeah, try it. Give it a go, man. Shanghai.
But here we see an issue where we see Houston's stubbornness. They bring in Spree, right? And Spree hops on Zarya, and then they essentially go for what's called the Space Dragon, right? Where you have a Zarya grab followed by a Hanzo Dragon, because that's still one of the only...
boys are stubborn.
That's one of the only pure combos still left in the game, right? Where you're pretty much going to get that kill. There's no way to kind of work out the math. Unless you were to, like, transcend it, or unless you were to pump up the volume or whatever he says. And then, so Lucio ult into Zen ult, and then you would have to like soldier canister. It's a bunch of weird stuff you would have to do, but that was what they were going for, and they had ults pretty quickly.
Yeah. Besides Spree, that Spree really did. He died one time. Got 10%. Just kind of struggling. But you're right. Linkser does get his ult very quickly, but man, they just keep running into the wall on this.
Yeah,
it just seemed like they're struggling to get anything done.
It's very smart what they do, and we see. I think NYXL does this later down the road when they're playing London as well. Is where they make sure that Hanzo or Zarya is never alive at the same time, right? Yeah. Because when they have their ults, so as long as you can stagger them, they're not going to pop one for the other because you need the combo. That's the whole point of running that comp.
Right. And I think at one point Linkser just throws it out there because it doesn't look like they're ever going to be able to get there.
Yep, Linkser throws it out there, and then Spree dumps it. He dumps it in the hallway in that building on the stairs. And literally does nothing, leaves, and then dies.
Which I love watching Spree play Zarya. He's a really good Zarya.
Yeah.
And it sucks because they generally only bring him out in King's Row, and they lose. I mean, they don't even get the first point, and he's back to the bench again. So
yeah, and then your boy comes out, Big Goose, on attack, and because they only need to get one tick, he does a great job
of 30 seconds or something.
Yeah, something nuts like that. You're just watching it tick up to 100. He runs up, jumps behind him, EMPs, game over. Or map over, essentially. But then we move into a map that keeps us in it, right? So we're 2-1 right now. We move into Gibraltar. And here, Houston usually goes Widow Genji most of the time. So they do that. But this one was kind of a struggle bus situation if it wasn't for Jake playing outside of his comfort zone. Yeah. So he's playing Tracer, and when you watch him, like you can see it. I mean, if you've played on ladder, if you've watched any other games of Tracer's play, you watch his movements. Watch how he back shifts. Like when he back dashes and does certain things, he sometimes gets caught on walls or he'll get caught in a corner, and you see him kind of awkwardly maneuvering around the map to do what a Tracer should be doing fluidly, right? And then you watch Asher play, because you have that juxtaposition right there, and it's so smooth and effortless that you can tell he's really having trouble. And even on the camera, you can see him focusing more when he is playing. It's less of a loose feeling and more of a I need to play this character well look.
Yeah, he looked confident, especially on this map for sure. And being backed up by Linkser, man, Linkser was killing it on Widow on this map.
Yeah, so he kind of channels his inner Soon and does a back cap on the first point.
Yeah. Oh, and that was a fight that the Gladiators looked like they had caught up with, and they were able to stabilize. And I think that really turned it around for him there.
Yeah, that turned it around for him. And there was a case where over this last couple matches, because Linkser has been playing well, like you said, his Widow's been insane, but we do have Jake having this trouble. And then we have the botched comp on King's Row where they attempt the Space Dragon and all that stuff. But the Gladiators do a great job of mobbing Linkser. Like, they never let him really set up in the situation, right?
Yeah.
You have Asher get on him, and then who's the Winston tank again? Bishu. No. It's Fissure. Sorry. How did I forget that, right? That's a blasphemy.
That was the best trade. That was the best trade they ever made. But Fissure.
Oh, yeah, of course. Fissure and Asher are always all over Linkser once he gets a couple shots out. I mean, Linkser is getting his shots, and that kind of works towards their advantage because Linkser's playing well on Widow. You know that on third point, that Widow sightline is beautiful.
Oh, it's great.
So that's where he kind of takes advantage of it, and Houston does end up pulling it out.
Yeah, especially when you have to dedicate more than one person to one Widow. It really lets your front line like Jake and Muma, take control of the cart and kind of run with it.
And then we move into, our control map, our tiebreaker of sorts, and we get Ilios, and Gladiators shock everyone. Like, everyone's like, what? Like, immediately when you see that hydration is on fucking Lucio.
Oh, that map 2.
Excuse my French, but what?
Yeah, no joke, man. I think they did a round interview, after round interview, and they were like, "Hydration, what do you want to do? Like, we need a Widow, we need a Tracer." He's like, "I'll play Lucio," and they're like, "Are you sure?" And I think he really had no idea how to play Lucio, but he did fine. He did fine. They're like, he kind of trolled them. He was like, "Yeah, I'll play Lucio, whatever." Yeah, I'll do it.
Ended up on Lucio. And he got frags too. Like, he was getting kills as well.
Yeah, because they played the Sombra, man, and that was sweet.
So the comp for, the listeners, essentially they went Diva, Widow, Sombra, Tracer, Lucio. And what's great about that is obviously because you get a fat pack, right? So you guard that fat pack on the left side.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have Tracer, who can pretty much get all the other ones that Sombra hacks. Lucio's just great in that situation because you can boot people off, and then the way that point is set up, he has access to everyone, right? At all times. You have the Winston Diva because you want the Winston Diva, and then the sightlines for Widow is beautiful on Ilios. So it on paper, it makes sense why they did it, but Houston was not in the mindset or the wherewithal to see this coming and to be able to adapt to it.
No, this was out of nowhere. When they picked it, you're like, all right, so they're messing around. They're not going to play this comp. Sure enough, they come out with this comp, and Houston doesn't look like they have any idea how to fight against this.
Yeah, and we talk about stubbornness, and they would not immediately when I saw the comp, I was like, get off of Zen. Because this comp is literally to kill Zen. Like, you have
absolutely.
You have Big Goose on Sombra, who's been giving you trouble. You have Lucio, who's going to get to you or boost them to you. You have both your dive tanks, right? You have Widow, who's going to two-shot. Like, there's no way Zen, I don't care how good you are. I don't care if you're Ryu. I don't care if you're Jonak. I don't care if you're Bedosin. I don't care who you are. Get off of Zen and figure something out. There's plenty of other healers.
His kit's just not worth it at that point, right? Yeah. So his Discord's not doing anything. His healing's not doing anything. He's just getting pounced on. Yeah. And how good does it have to feel as Shaz? You're like, all right, man, I'm playing Lucio. I'm playing Zen again. They're like, all right, Shaz, we need you to play the Tracer. He's like, holy shit. Are you guys sure? It's like getting
Shaz
called
on
up.
Tracer. I had to look up his role again after they put him on there. I was like, wait, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, who is this guy? We've never. It's like getting called up third string. You're like the punter or something. They're like, all right, we need you to jump in as quarterback. We need you to do this.
You know what? And, Shaz might be in the hair talks too. I mean, it's more classic, but it's it's nice, like 60s businessman cut to the left. But it sits still and it sits good. So I don't know, Shaz. We might put you on that list.
Yeah, you got to compete against your own teammate in the Goose, but
Goose's hair, it got better at the end of the week too. Like, it got poofier in the front.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think they're gonna make like gladiator style, like purple goose wigs?
Oh, dude, that'd be sweet.
That'd be dope.
Like they do. What is the football team that does those kind of things? I guess a lot of them do it, but yeah, dude, that'd be. I'd buy one of those. I'd wear it just watching the matches. No one could see me.
Exactly. Well, yeah, they rounded out. Gladiators take it. I mean, we talked about the stubbornness, and that's because this match does have a lot of close fights, especially towards the end. It goes 99-99, if I believe. But because Houston doesn't switch until around that last 25% of the match, it's too late at that point, and the momentum's there, the ult economy's there.
Yeah, got to be adaptive.
They close it out, and Gladiators, I'm mad they beat us, but they deserved it. And what they've been doing right now in this stage has been super impressive and fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like a big turnaround, too, from stage 1.
All right, yeah. So then it takes us into, Friday, which is another good pool of matches in general. And this is just, it's almost like we should just stop saying it's another good pool of matches. The matches are good. We're at a point in the league now where almost all the teams are good, where you have, the only two big struggling teams at this moment were Shanghai and Florida, and Florida's turning it around, right?
Yeah.
So Shanghai's the last contender. Come on, Cleveland Browns.
Well, they traded it off.
And
Florida
Dallas
traded
Fuel.
Dallas, for
Dallas
their struggles.
Dallas is not a real team because they don't ever have their players. So until they have a roster that's the same week to week, I'll give them credit for being an actual team in the league. But we start off with the London Spitfire versus San Francisco Shock. San Francisco Shock have been playing better, and they're one of those teams that are showing out, and they do show out on my team later this week. Well, we'll talk about that.
That they do.
London takes it because London is London. They take it 3-1, taking Volskaya, Nepal, and Route 66, and then Shock eke out Hollywood for that one win there. And then we follow that up with the Los Angeles Valiant versus the Boston Uprising game, which is an upset, right? Boston has been doing better.
Valiant's been upset all week, man.
Yeah, Valiant's on the downtrend, and they're kind of mimicking the issues that my team has had, where these are two teams, stage 1, we're at the top, right? And now they're kind of having trouble and not adjusting as well.
Yeah.
But they don't have a tracer problem, so they need to figure out what they need. But they take it 3-2, so it was a good close game. Boston took Volskaya and Kings Row and Ilios for the win. But Valiant did get Li Jiang and Route 66 there. And then we get into the one we care about. We care about all games, but this was the juicy one.
We care about this one,
because you have two teams who are turning it around. So I guess Los Angeles has turned it around. Florida's working on it. So the results do reflect that.
Yeah.
Right?
And this one was very close. Not only match-wise, but statistically, very close game, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely want to get in the stats towards the end because it's interesting to kind of see who could win it either way. And to the point to where we even start out with a draw, right?
Yeah.
And it was a draw that was well played. I mean, there were some big plays on it as well. Like, they forced Los Angeles to take the first point in overtime, which they should have ended that, and that would have been a cleaner match for Florida. But they couldn't, so Los Angeles took that first point, and they kind of rolled that over into the second point, which put them over. And that's mainly because Surefour here, like we talked about, he was ramping. He was having some trouble in the first game of the week.
Yeah. Thank God he did not play fucking.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Thank you, Surefour.
I think people have caught on to it, right?
Yeah.
And people are now ready for it because he is one of the top Sombra players. But here he has, on second point, he has a crazy slick McCree 3K.
Oh, absolutely.
That pretty much confirms that second point for him. And then later he has another nice one with a 3K that helps him cap the point again. So both big, when you talk about, we talked about agilities and silk thread, right? About players who can be clutch when you need them to. And that's where Surefour kind of, he's able to do that, but he's also able just to play well in general. Because his soldier was really good this week as well.
Yeah, he's definitely got a big hero pool that you can kind of pick and choose from. Besides Sombra, he can.
Yeah, and then we did see the triple tank Sombra deal here with Lucio as a single healer. Question for you, Clay: how do you feel about the Sombra pick, either taking the DPS role or taking the support role?
It depends on if you're on offense or defense. I like it, especially on Volskaya on defense, if he is going to take, the second support role, because they are able to, cycle over to that health pack. Mm-hmm. And you are getting enough healing, I think, from the Lucio, just getting, the incremental heal over time, and when he's able to amp it up, I think there is enough healing there. And there's so much utility in Sombra that you're willing to give up a little bit of healing and a Discord Orb to be able to get this EMP especially because we're talking about old Sombra. We're not, talking about new Sombra where the health packs don't matter as much now. But on the, especially in OWL where the health packs do matter, I think it's worth to take a support role. It obviously it just depends on the map, but especially on this map, I like it taking a support slot.
Yeah, and one thing that stood out to me here is Tavic's backline work is terrible. He's trash. Well, no, he's not trash. His backline works. So I'm referring to when he's on Tracer, he tries to sneak up on a Zenyatta or sneak up on his. He fails 100% of the time.
Yeah, he needs to be one of those frontline tracers that's taking people from either 30 HP to 0, or doing a little incremental damage and letting the soldier polish off. Because he is an insane tracer player.
Yes.
But he doesn't need. He's not Soon. He's not Soon's doing the backline work.
Yeah.
He's getting the picks on his own.
Yeah.
Generally, we'll see Tavik do he'll get the 3Ks because he's able to take everybody from. Yeah, right. But he, like you said, he's not as consistent on taking down the Zenyatta in the backline for sure.
Yeah. So we get a draw here on Volskaya, and then we move into Nepal. Control map, and this is the weird spot where first of all they give you the stat, right? So okay, well, Los Angeles has not lost one control map in stage 2. All right, cool. Well, they end up losing this one, and that's a consistent theme throughout this week. Is like, hey, look at this perfect record, and it gets ruined.
Yeah.
But we are getting towards the end of the stage, so naturally it had to happen at some point.
Yeah, and Florida is actually. Especially early in the week too, they've been great on these control maps. These last couple weeks, they've been doing really well too. So
they've been doing better. But we get Hydration coming in, and he never really gets a foothold. It's kind of like we've talked about, subbing in. When do you sub in? What maps do you do it on? Because you have this issue where they're warming up in the back, or they have been warmed up, but it's a different kind of scenario, dumping them into a game that's already in motion, right?
Right.
And his Genji never really gets off the ground.
Right. Yeah, it's this is kind of the chance too for Florida to take off, and after a draw you want to pick up that first win because that kind of sets the series. Yeah. And you're right. He never gets much going on the Genji. So. And
on top of that, we see some uncharacteristic stubbornness where Asher does not get off of Hanzo, which I didn't even know he played Hanzo, so that's a shocker. It's almost like a solo queue with a bug that I only play Hanzo.
Yeah, and I think they mentioned that he's not getting his ult quick, he's not getting picks, but he's not changing either. Yeah, they call it out at the very beginning. They say, oh well, he's not gotten a pick. Generally, you'll bring that Hanzo in to get an early pick. You also get the Sonic arrow, which gives your team an advantage. But when you're trying to re-push with a Hanzo, it's very difficult. You almost want to see him just go right back over to the Tracer and just go to a traditional dive comp. And now that stubbornness, like you said, did bring him down.
Yeah, and then they flip back off of that because they're not the Houston Outlaws. I took a dig at my own team. That shows how much I respect them. But we go into Hollywood and they flip the script. I mean, attack May, really?
Yeah. Well, this is
what doesn't Hydration play?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think it messes with all these teams too. They're like, well, dude, this guy can pull out anything. He's got the Genji, he's got the Pharah, he's got the Mei now, and the Doomfist. Like, what do you play against this guy? But they bring in Zappas, who is a new addition to their team.
Yes.
And I don't like seeing this. We saw Logix. They take out Logix, they bring in Zappas. Logix was killing it on Nepal. Yeah. Like, all kinds of picks. And I hate when they bring a player that's on fire out to bring in a guy that is kind of untested in the league. And obviously they have to get their play sometimes, but man, this is a point where they're up one, you just keep the train rolling, and they take them out, and it really it looked like it cost them.
Oh yeah, it definitely, because you could see it. You could see the change in the attack, because it was a case where, first of all, you have May. May hasn't been played more than 30 seconds on this map, right? And that was the same case on Li Zhang, where when Hydration first pulled out Doomfist, where he's playing these characters that you don't usually see on these maps. Now you have a fresh guy in there as well, right? Who has to not only warm up, but he has to start syncing with this team, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They've practiced, they've done whatever, but you throw him. This is his first situation. Like, that's a nightmare, and it looked like a nightmare because they just kept that thing moving constantly.
Oh yeah, could not stop. Well, and it forces Maniton, who's been playing D.Va and playing D.Va relatively well throughout the entire series and this stage 2. It forced Maniton, who's a fine Widowmaker player, I'm sure normally, forced him on a Widow. So it kind of shook up the whole team, and I don't like seeing that kind of thing. I mean, I think they bring Zappas in because Maniton probably stage 1 maybe looked a little weak on D.Va, so they got this guy in who is normally Zappas is a very good D.Va player, but it really did shake up the composition.
And on top of that, the long list of reasons why not to do this. Florida has only won a hybrid mat once in stage 2, so it's like you're pretty much putting yourself at this handicap you don't need to. And the May pick was brilliant. And this is what I talk about. Go back to your question, which is a great question about, is the Tracer the problem, or are there other solutions? And you see it here where Gladiators are, I guess when you've been at the bottom of the bottom, right? When you've been in the hood, when you had to struggle and you finally come up, you understand it better. You have a bigger view, because Houston is still focused on the Tracer, where you have Hydration here playing May, and the main thing he's doing with May is giving Manhattan difficult shots because the wall is constantly up. Like, he's putting the wall in a position on a map where Widow has great sight lines in places where he no longer has those lines, right?
Yep.
And then dealing with everything that's close to the cart. So he's dealing with both your range and your close encounters, and then allowing his team to play around that. And that's that's part of his skill as a player and his value with that team. It's absurd. But he doesn't just switch. He doesn't switch off until Doom. And when he switches off, he switches to Doomfist.
Yeah. I actually thought he was still on the May at one point. I was like, who? Oh, that's Doomfist coming in. Yeah, baby. Yeah, I like that unconventional. It's like you brought up, just trying new things. Unconventional play where May did shake up Florida,
and it's not reckless. Let's make
it's
that
not.
disclaimer.
It seemed like it was very well thought of, and it seemed like they practiced this kind of thing too. Because obviously, like we said before, Widow's great on this map, especially point 2 where you got that long sight line. May did shake those guys up for sure.
Yeah, and then the moment they got adjusted to May, then they switch to Doomfist, and he goes off on Doomfist. He starts off with a 3K, and then at that point it's just kind of, he's great at displacing people off the point or off the cart and all that stuff. So it works out in their favor. It was a very impressive game to watch. Just to see kind of like, if you need a definition of who are the Los Angeles Gladiators right now, you show them that video, show them that game.
Yeah.
And they'll fully understand.
Yeah, different strategies going on. Yeah, it's really fun to watch too, actually.
The only other thing I can think of that stood out on this map, which the commentators called out, and by the way, the shoutcasters have been crushing it. Like, shoutcasting is very difficult, especially when you involve stats. You're trying to keep everybody in line as far as what's going on the screen. I think they've been doing a hell of a job.
I couldn't imagine how difficult that job is. And like you said, they do a really good job.
But yeah, Tavik in this map does hold. I don't know if that's part of the issue with having Manhattan in there, where it seems like Tavik was holding his Dragon Blades a lot longer than he needed to compensate.
Yep. Exactly. It looks like a little bit of miscommunication too. Like, when does he need to pull it out? But they kind of look like they were all over the map the entire time too. They really did shake it up with the player switches, I think.
Yeah, the moment he pulls it out too, he dies.
Yeah. So you wait 3 minutes or 2.5 minutes with one of the best ultimates to turn a fight around and lose it immediately.
Yeah, but then we move into Route 66. And this is kind of the one to wrap it up, because we did have that draw on the first map. So the first person to get 2 wins, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And here we see some great Widow play, man. Sure 4 was just in, like, that's how you finish out the week. Finish strong, right?
Yeah. He did. Definitely impressed, man.
On the first half, or in the first half of the game in general, his attack Widow was pretty much carrying them. And keeping that cart moving. He was just headshots all day.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think were able to get point 1 and 2, relatively quickly, but Logix did hold them at point 3, and I think that was Florida's chance. Logix hops on the Widow.
Yeah.
Gladiators aren't able to push it all the way to point 3, and here's a chance for Florida, to capitalize and win the map and maybe take it to a game 5. But Gladiators had different plans.
Yeah, and they, listen, Florida Mayhem, I get you turned it around, but now's not the time to use an NYXO comp. They tried the double snipe comp.
Yeah, man.
And they botched it completely.
Stuck for so long. Yeah. It was so rough to watch.
Yeah, it just burned up their time bank.
They do, I think, get it 2.2. But the Gladiators were doing this awesome thing. They were like, all right, Florida, you can see them behind the wall.
Yeah.
Behind that giant gate getting set up. And, Gladiators were like, you know what? Let's just get on them right now, man. They look like they're trying to set up, and they were able to take, 30 to 40 seconds up, wipe off the clock, and they weren't able to get to the cart pretty much. They got to the cart in overtime, which that's bad news.
Yeah, it shows you just, Gladiators' adaptability. Like, they're constantly, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. They're the best adapting team in the league right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no way they could have pulled off what they pulled off unless they were. Many other teams maybe have not had to do this yet, right? But it's still a very impressive display. And if you look at the stats there, I mean, if you go through the stats, it was fairly close. Like, could have went either way.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I did want to point out was Tavik was able to get 12 kills per 10 minutes and only died 3 times per 10 minutes on average, which is very good.
Yeah,
very good. Yeah. But like you said, how close it was. Florida ended up getting more team fights, won 37 team fights, and LA only getting 36. Only one.
Yeah.
But that's how close it was.
Yeah.
So pretty crazy.
And so one more, I sound like a Los Angeles fanboy at this point.
You should be, man. Just come on over. Actually, with your voodoo jinx and shit, don't bring that my way. Look, we got a good thing going here at LA.
Yeah, man. I don't want to. I'm doing you a favor, so I'm actually really supporting you guys by staying away.
Yeah, thanks.
But one thing they show us is the communication, and Overwatch communication is usually the same. But here, what they're doing, because you do have that sound barrier between Fissure. Bishu does speak both languages, or is it Asher? I think it's Bishu. And then he kind of, Surefour is calling stuff. They're all talking, but Surefour is kind of giving those commands, and then Bishu is translating that to Asher and Fissure.
Yep.
And the same way in another direction. So not only are they doing that, they also have a style where they not only call peels, right? Like, so when they need peeling, they call out
which is
current,
huge. Yeah.
They call out what the current setup is. So like it's 4v4, 3v4, 4v2, and they keep track of that as well, which is something you don't see a lot of. It's more of, calling out, okay, get this target, rather than, okay, this is the situation. You hear people calling for peels, so you know how many people you have, if you need a peel or not, and then you're calling out people dropping, and you're calling out ults. Their communication sounds like a mess, but it's damn near genius because it's value for them. They're using it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's actually a great confidence booster when you hear, hey, it's 3v3, because you're seeing your guys die, and when you see someone die on your team, you're like, oh crap, man,
I'm all alone now.
More difficult. Yeah. And speaking of Overwatch communication, though, why is Ladder not like this? I'm the only one in the damn fucking voice chat.
I was going to ask you that because you're a higher level player than I am. Is that still an issue up there?
I was going to say, so mid-masters, everybody thinks they're great. Low GM, people are still really trying hard. So that's when you really got, a lot more communication going on right there. But yeah, mid-masters, everybody thinks there's a pro. So no one's talking. Everybody's leaving voice chat.
I can say from, high platinum diamond area where I'm seeing right now, there's a lot more communication than I remember. Like, you would think everybody down there was trying to be a fucking pro team because we're calling out ults, we're calling out, this person down. It's kind of similar to some amateur call outs, and that's a big benefit now. I'm gonna see. I'm climbing now. I'm trying to get up there. I'm aiming for low diamond, mid diamond this season. And we'll see. How that susses out. Yeah. But I'm seeing more communication on the lower end. That's hilarious to hear.
Yeah, I was gonna say so when you're at your peak, like when you're getting towards 4K, that's when everybody seems like they're trying really hard. They want to stay in GM, they want to push higher up. But once you get to like 4,200, they're like, oh, I've been in GM.
I'm basically top 1,000.
Yeah, I'm on an Overwatch league team. They're really not, but they think they are. But yeah, it seems like it gets there when you're at that peak to go up.
Still waiting for you to hit the top 500, man.
Yeah, I'm close.
So I can tell people. It's like, I know a guy.
Yeah. I get to play with Soon every once in a while.
That's
I didn't know who he was at first in one of these matches. I embarrassed myself. This was very early on before teams were picking. I was like, hey, Soon, you're really good. and the whole team laughed at me. They were like, you don't know who this guy is? I'm like, shit.
Oh, man. New kid in school.
Yeah, no joke. All right, getting into Saturday, we had Dallas Fuel playing Philadelphia. And Philly takes this one 4-0. Pretty dominant fashion, too, especially with Philly on the, kind of on the rise as far as standings concerned. They really did dominate this game. And it's like kicking a horse when it's already dead, right? The only thing that really stuck out to me when I did look over the stats, Custa killed 3 people. 3 people in 4 maps and died 32 times. Dude, that is rough, man. You ever had those days where you just can't kill anybody, but you die over and
I don't know if I've had this type of day. Like I underlined it a couple of times.
Yeah, that's rough, man. That's.
I mean, when I play,
you gotta really look in the mirror and say, "Have I played Overwatch before?"
When I play Mercy, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, and his counterpart, dude, Boombox, and these Zenyatas, man, they generally have a higher death rate because obviously they're the first one to get picked out.
Yeah.
But Boombox went 30 and 15, which is very good.
Yes,
So,
it's a solid night.
the only other thing that really stuck out was over the course of 4 maps, Dallas only won 17 team fights, where Philly won 38. Dude, that is rough. But yeah, Philly took all 4: Hanamura, Lee Jang, Kings Row, and Gibraltar.
Yeah, we're seeing a kind of a theme that we've seen before, where the roster matters, and any team that has to be worried about their roster rather than like worrying about who you're picking and who you're playing is fine. Worrying about strats is fine, but everything, keep it in game. We have to worry about people who's going to show up next week. Who are we playing? What's our combination? Who likes who? Who works well together? That stuff you should take care of off camera.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This has got to come down to, you got a bunch of young kids. This has got to be a coaching. It's got to be a staff issue. No one seems in control, right? There's no leadership.
Yeah.
So they've got some stuff to figure out. But we'll get into our next map.
You just want to skip you can skip the next map. You don't have to.
What's that?
You don't have to do the. Yeah, you can skip it.
This is crazy because So
the listeners can go look it up if they want to.
It looks like. Oh no, yeah. So Houston did play Shock.
Did we play?
For some reason, I thought Houston had lost enough already in the week. They wanted to come back and win. They wanted to come back and lose some more. So I did not. Man, I really thought Houston was going to take this one, but
this is embarrassing at this point.
It is pretty embarrassing, but it does show that Dante is fighting for his job because Dante has got the slot that Sinatra, who is turning 18 this week,
$150,000 a year, Sinatra.
Yeah, he's getting paid for nothing. What has he been doing? He ain't playing in matches. Dante's out here fighting for his job.
Sinatra better show up in a leather jacket.
Yeah, they better.
He's been at the games, right? I thought. Are they allowed to come to the stadium?
Yeah. I'm sure he's been to the back room coaching and stuff like that, or giving shout outs and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, dude, Dante looked like he's fighting for his job on this one, man, because he really does show out on this, getting 12.4 kills per 10 minutes and only dying 3.83 times per 10 minutes, which is pretty good stats.
Yeah. I like watching Dante, especially like watching him that night. I mean, it was an abusive night, but
yeah,
they were playing really well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They look like a functional team, all on the same page. Nami, who is normally a passive Winston player, really getting out there and playing aggressive, and it definitely showed too. Gave Dante room to get out there and get the kills, and Baby Bay, man, doing really well too on the hit scan players. So I like seeing those guys do well. Has he been
on the team the whole time?
Or he has. Yeah, he's been primarily a hit scan player, Widow, McCree, Soldier, but yeah, finally coming out. Yeah, dude. Sorry.
You don't have to. I get it. At this point, there'll be a turnaround point. I'm interested in all the off the field stuff, and they need to figure that out because I can't honestly watch Gladiators play and be like, oh, only one issue is Tracer, and that's if you can solve that, everything's going to be all right. No, there's more to it.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get into our feature match of Saturday, which is Seoul Dynasty.
Should have been better.
Should have been. Yeah, Seoul versus London, which, man, coming from Seoul versus New York earlier in the week, I really thought it would be a closer match.
It's a hard week, man. It's a hard week.
It is. Dude, that is a tough week for Seoul, man. Could you imagine? Yeah, that'd be insane.
Two completely different style teams.
It is, yeah. Especially, and we saw Spitfire lose last week, but we did see Spitfire lose when they decided to play their B team in the first 2 maps. Yeah. This is what Spitfire looks like when they are playing Prophet. They're playing Rascal. No, not Rascal. I'm sorry. He's on Dallas. Libero? Who am I thinking of?
We're talking about Spitfire, right? Oh, the B team. They were playing. I think it was like they were playing Horeg. They were playing Hagopen. They were playing Wu Hall, and then they didn't have Dosin in either. Closure.
Yeah,
they had Closure in.
Yeah, so we saw Bird Ring, and we got to see Prophet, and
Yes.
the A team looks a lot different, man.
Yeah.
So makes me wonder: are you playing the B team just to get some time in there because you think you can outclass the Gladiators? I don't know. Maybe a talk for another week. But
Yeah.
the A team definitely came out.
Yeah, 18 came out and they showed up, and we start off with Hanamura, which is a case where both teams have a very good record, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
On that map, Spitfire are undefeated on that map, and Dynasty in general have a 70% win rate on assaults.
Yeah.
So that's a good standing. Go either way. It does go in favor of the Spitfire in this case, just because of their huge time banks.
Yeah.
I think at one point, Dynasty had probably was like a minute something, and then Spitfire had like 6 minutes on the clock or something.
Yeah, it was something insane.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was going to go the same way for Spitfire. They're like, oh, this is going to be kind of a grind. Dude, they take point 2 with relative ease, right?
Yeah, and it's you can't let. There's a lot of maps now in this map pool that have these sight lines for Widows that are just perfect, and Bird Ring's going to take advantage of that. He's probably the best Widow we have right now in the league, right?
Yeah.
And we see that. So that's a case of standard math. You don't have enough time, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
You're not going to have.
Yeah, you got to really do something. Got to pull something really crazy off because 6 minutes, dude, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, especially for a team of that caliber.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we move into Li Jiang, right?
Yeah.
Li Jiang is where you kind of have, I spoke about it at the beginning of the episode, kind of to foreshadow one of the Dynasty's issues is that Ryu Jae-hong is not only just a face of the team, but he is also an Achilles heel where...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they pinpointed this very early on in practice. They probably talked about this. If you take this guy down, you're going to take down the team, man.
Yeah. So they put all their resources into it, and it pays off. And there's even a couple cases where you have, like Gesture. Gesture will make the sacrifice of his life just to put them in the position so that they can take out Ryu Jae-hong, because the value of him versus the value of Jae-hong is just completely different.
Yeah, I actually just looked up a stat, right here. Ryu Jae-hong in this series went 11-40, so tying 40 times over 4 maps. And yeah, like you said, man, you take him down, he is the Achilles heel, and a big part of the shot calling too. You take him out, he's out of the fight. He has no idea what's going on. So
yeah, and so they take Li Jiang, and that's mainly the focus. Is like kill Jae-hong, take the point. That's how they.
And the commentators brought it over and over, like, dude, this guy is really getting worn on, and they really did a good job taking him out.
Dynasty not being stubborn, they do adjust when we move on to King's Row, right? We get to see the three tank combo, and a lot of Zarya play. I mean, Zarya play, I think the whole time.
Yeah. And I did not know Prophet ventured into the Zarya play, but dude, I think on defense, and we'll get into that, gets 2 huge grabs at one point. Just sneaks up behind him on one of them, gets a big grab, and this is towards the very end of their defense. Gets a huge one there, and another one kind of at that corner, and they just hold the corner. And
do you remember who was playing the Zarya for Dynasty?
I do not, but I can check real quick.
I can't remember who was playing the Zarya, but it was one of those cases where, Prophet was making the Dynasties.
Munchkin.
Yeah, Munchkin was doing well, and that was one of the confusing parts to me. Right, was that it wasn't really confusing because if Jae-hong has to switch off, because it looks like they really didn't want him on Zenyatta because of the problem. That's a good call, right? So he wanted to play. Jae-hong has been playing a lot of Moira lately. And if you have that Moira combo or the Moira X, whoever the other healer is, you can pretty much want to go the triple tank route, right?
A lot of healing.
A lot of healing. A lot of AoE healing when you're doing the Lucio as well.
Yep.
So that's what they went with. And, London Spitfire being London Spitfire, they're like, okay, we'll mirror what you're doing. And Prophet puts Munchkin to shame.
His Zarya play, very impressive.
Yeah, averaging 66 energy when both teams are playing Zarya the whole game.
Must be nice,
right?
Man.
And then I think he charged his first 2 grabs in under 40 seconds.
Whew.
The longest ult in the game to charge.
Yeah, and then we've seen, especially in this stage, we've seen a little bit more Zarya play, but generally we see it on Control Point or this King's Row, and the ultimate's not doing a lot, especially on those control points. But man, his 2 ultimates, especially on defense, really backbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it came down to was essentially his Zarya play trumping because you had both the same comps, right? Triple tank, they had the Junkrat, and then you had your Moira Lucio, but Spitfire take it again, so they keep that. They get the 3 wins, they take the whole round, and then you have the map differential. Give me, which they decided to take as well because we're getting closer to playoffs, so now map differential really does matter.
I was a little upset. I turned it off at this point.
You did?
I wanted a game like I got earlier in the week.
Yeah,
I'm spending my Saturday afternoon. I'm grilling out. I'm watching this game. I wanted some competition, and I didn't get it. A little greedy of me, but yeah. So I'm assuming you watched the rest of it.
I watched it. So Gibraltar was interesting because if you took this whole night, this was probably Dynasty's best game, and they still lost.
Rough.
This was them playing damn near to perfection. There's a case where one of the problems is Spitfire's undefeated on this map, right? They're one of those teams who has those stats, which is just crazy to me at stage 2. But yeah, they're undefeated in stage 2, and I think on stage 1 they only lost once on that map as well on Gibraltar.
Oh, wow.
So
that's really good.
For this push, Fleta finally gets his Genji going. I mean, it's the 4th game, unfortunately, but he gets it going.
Hey, at least he got it going, right?
Yeah, and they kind of keep the cart moving steadily, and then he gets to 4K on the second point. And right after that fight, there's a second fight where Zumba follows that up with a 3K Diva ult, right? And they still don't cap third point.
Oh, jeez.
And that all happens that straightaway, that good Widow sightline at the end of Gibraltar. That's where that all happens, and they still can't get it there. And at that point, I was like, that has to be the most disheartening thing, to have 2 big plays in that situation and still not be able to push it forward, because that's pretty much London saying, hey, know your place.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we took the first 3. We're going to take the 4th round.
Yeah, and then but Prophet throughout that game is one of those cases as I said, Prophet and Birdring, best combo right now, hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, Strike. SBB and Libero, they're up there, but I still think that Prophet and Birdring they're both always playing well, and then one is either excelling above that or the other one is. They don't have this playing bad situation.
Yeah, it's definitely a case when the A team came out and definitely showed what was up, and this will definitely be a playoff team.
Yeah.
I'm putting these guys, New York, and either I think it's up between Fusion and the Gladiators, honestly. So
yeah, I could see that.
So, and we only got one more week. We got week 5, and then we're getting to the playoffs. So, pretty cool.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to mention, finally, just kind of takes us to our general section, is that Zumba seems to be in a situation that Poco was in, right? Where Zumba's doing really good at fragging. He's doing really good as the diva part, as finishing kills, getting the bombs. But his defense, I feel like, is struggling. And the case now where, Toby is, for some reason, Toby's character is Mercy. Even though he was a Mercy meta, I feel more comfortable with him on Mercy, even though he is a Lucio player. I get that.
Right.
But when he was on Mercy, it was not only helping Ryu do more damage, but keeping him alive and helping out, because Zumba does have issues with the defensive portion of diva play. And that became completely clear, because when you have Toby playing, his Ana's all right, playing Ana, and then, he died a lot on Ana this match, but him playing Ana, you have Zumba having issues with defense, and then the whole game plan is to kill Jaehong, and they're willing to sacrifice a tank for it. Yeah. That all lines up to you losing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In hindsight.
Well, and it definitely shows, too, because one of the stat lines is Wu Hall dies half the times as Zumba.
Yeah.
Because Zumba is getting the picks and the stuff he does, he needs to get, but he's also not stepping back. You got to be able to pick and choose your battles, and he wasn't there to kind of defend the back line some of the times when he needed to.
Yeah. So that's it, man. This has been a long one, but these were good games.
Yeah, they were a great, awesome week.
Yeah, and I mean, we have no problem dedicating the time to awesome weeks, man, to just kind of hash through some stuff, talk about some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
To see this progression. But, as far as, things outside of the game, Dallas Fuel situation. So we mentioned it last cast.
I think we, last cast, so we finished it, and then within, 20 minutes, Dallas decided to release Felix XQC.
So he's not banned from the league. He's just released from the team.
Not banned. Yeah.
Oh,
no, so
okay.
They released his contract during the window at which they could. So it is yet to be determined if he will be picked up by somebody else. He's definitely a great main tank player. The inconsistencies with him being banned, you've got to be able to practice around a main tank, and if a main tank's not going to be there for the matches, there's no point. So kind of wish him the best of luck. He's a great player, good personality.
People are supporting him. Sports
I'm sure in game, but his stream life is kind of taken over. So anything else? I think the only other thing I noted, Old Spice being added to the official sponsors of Contenders, not the Overwatch League, but Contenders.
Keep bringing in more money, man. Keep bringing in more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're doing well.
Maybe they give us one of those Old Spice commercials.
That would be dope. The bird watchers bring you Old Spice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm not an Old Spice fan, but that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'll use it for the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so I had a question here in general, which is this is mainly because my team is the Outlaws and we've been having trouble. And one thing I'm looking at, because we talk about how Clockwork fits into the team, right? And Clockwork is usually in when Jake's not. And I was kind of wondering, at what point do you value your player based on your player's leadership capability outside of play? Is it a case where the leader should always be the best player? Or if somebody has enough to be a good or decent player, but them being there, their presence, them being the leader of the team, the captain, does that outvalue skill in your eyes?
I mean, I think especially in that situation where you have someone like Jake who is slotted into that leadership role, I definitely like the consistency of having one guy. He leads the team. I don't know how prevalent it is in this meta where we're having dive, where everything is very quickly. There's not a ton. I mean, there's definitely strategy. But it's very quick. So these call-outs aren't as important like we saw Gladiators. When we listen to their comms, it's a lot of feedback from everybody on the team, where it's not one person. It's everybody calling out peels. It's everybody calling out numbers and stuff like that. As far as Houston, I want to see more Clockwork. I want to see him in every map. I want to see if that changes anything, because if you're getting this guy out for one map, but a series, I don't think there's going to be any way for him to get any better or learn how to play with the team. It's just hard to say. It's so situational when you see a leadership role come out like that. From what I've read, the main tank generally is, especially in this meta, when you have the dive comps, the main tank being generally the Winston, he's been your shot caller the most of the time because he's out in the front. He sees a lot of life totals. He sees what's going on. I like to see that kind of thing going on as far as your main tank. Now, there's situations where you have, like the Los Angeles Gladiators, where you have somebody like Fisher who isn't, as proficient in English as somebody else, where their whole team's calling out things. I kind of like that strategy as well. So it's very situational. Okay. But yeah, give Clockwork some time.
Yeah.
Get him out there. Because
he needs to go throw the football around with the team a bit. I feel like they mesh so well so early that it's, when he came in, it's probably a case of where he's kind of still the odd man out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he's also taking your Red Power Ranger spot, where Jake is the face of the team. So and they're bringing him in because of Jake's deficiency in Tracer. So it's a combination of all these kind of things where it's a professional sport, right? At this point, people are getting paid to do things, so decisions have to be made. But I'm still playing with what that value add is there, because I do think I've already made my position clear. I do think they're focusing on the wrong thing. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of teams have kind of figured out that if you can get a guy on one or two characters and don't have him, there's some, specialists out there like hydration and stuff like that. But if you can get a guy on one or two characters, get him really good at those two characters and not overlap with the other people on his team, then that's where you kind of get a winning formula. And I think that Houston has kind of, Linkser's playing Tracer, and Jake's playing Tracer, and Clockwork's playing Tracer, and then Linkser's playing Hitscan. And, there's just a lot of overlap. And I would like those guys to just figure out one or two characters, really specialize on them, and then figure out strategies from there. You know what I mean? And I think that's why Florida's been doing so well, especially in the last couple weeks. Logix is stuck to the Tracer, or he's stuck to the Widow, and that's all he's doing, and it's dominating. So
yeah. All right, so we'll close this one out, man. It's been a long episode, but I hope you guys enjoy it. There was a good amount of stuff to go through.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to talk about the Dallas Fuel, but I'm sure they'll be just as bad next next week, so we can get into that discussion.
We'll have plenty of content around those guys.
Yeah,
but
you guys you guys can email us always at Gmail at thebirdwatcherspodcast@gmail.com. Send us questions, suggestions, anything topic wise you want us to talk about. If you want us to focus more on Shanghai Dragons for some reason or anything along those lines, let us know. You can also
I want to hear from those people.
I want to hear from those.
You
those
guys are
psychos.
crazy. Yeah.
Or you can reach us at Twitter at the Bird Watchers. That's spelled Watchers is spelled WATCH 3RS. We're on Facebook, which is difficult to use, but we're figuring it out.
That platform
at the Bird Watchers. We're on Reddit at the Bird Watchers Podcast, and we're on YouTube. If you use that, if you have YouTube Red, or if it's your preferred listening platform, you can check us out there at the Bird Watchers.
Yeah, we did add Instagram this week too. It's the Birdwatchers Podcast. I just take funny pictures of my cat. Nothing really to do with the podcast, but if you like cats. The only other thing I want to say, big shout out to the guy that made the intro and does all the editing, the Lizard King. So
man. It's good stuff.
Cool.
He gets it done quick too, so we get these episodes to you guys before the next week starts.
Yeah, absolutely. So week 5 coming up next week, and then we'll get to our playoffs.
All right, guys, take it easy. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, see you guys.
I have destroyed more of your kind than I can count.
You weren't given those guns to toss them around like